about this servo installation. Going right down in the bottom, down there to pivot this, and then after I pivoted this one out about 7 or 8 degrees, and then pivoted this one out 7 or 8 degrees, I drilled another hole and put in another screw, so that now that the servo lines up with this angular control path. After installing this piece and the smaller piece with the seam, then now I'm going to put in the hinge, and then we can put in the control rod. The hinge is done here. These were done with this 3M Blenderm tape, BLENDERM, and you take a little section about 2 inches long, and you take 2 sections and you put them sticky to sticky like this, and you overlap it about a 1/2 inch, and then you wrap the sticky side on this one and then the underside of the other one, and you work your way down so it's like this, and then like that, like this, like that, like this, like that, all the way down. It's kind of like a weave thatch hinge, and you end up with this no friction hinge that's really strong. And as you can see, you got the control horns on there and the substructure, and the servos are done. So now I'm going to put in the control rods. The control rods were 33 and just over 33.5 inches long, and control horns are on the underside, so you don't see it when you're flying. The control movement on Vitava, they let you go up to 140 and 140 up, 55 down, like a lot of up, just because you should be able to just pull this in on a full stall or going almost nowhere, and it should just lower like an elevator. And it'll have, we'll see how that works with only with a lot more up. So it should it should dip more into the turn. Elevons are actually kicked up at 6 degrees, or however you want to interpret that there. Up and down, up and down, up and down of the rods. And you know, I'm not restricting the rod, but in its free state here, I put a 6mm block, a scrap above it. I put a 6mm scrap below it. And then on this side, I put one to the side and to the side. Basically what I'm doing is I'm capturing it in the state that it wants to move in. I'm not binding it. I mean, it does have just a little bit of movement. Motor mount, I'm going to take 4 of these, show you with 2 of them. I got some epoxy mixed up over here, and I'm going to glue these on there opposite. See how the handles on that side, handles on this side. Then I'm going to put some glue on there, and glue according to the plans. I'm going to nip the corner that goes down into the, and I glued the 2 stiffest ones together and the other 2 stiffest ones together, and then I clamped them among some of these other ones that were just in the pack, epoxied them, and these two aren't glued to these 2. All right, the paint stir sticks, the 21-inch paint stir sticks, I cut the back end and the front end off at the angles shown on the print, and then I glued them in here. They're kind of opposites. See the way that's divoted in? I kind of make them mirrored. I also contact glued and also double zip tied. They're flush this way and that way. There'll be a motor mount that gets glued on here, and there'll probably be a few little stubs of these will get put in here for a spacer. Get more speed out of this unit. On the end of this motor mount stick here is going to be the motor mount. I've got 2 of these clamped together, 2 of these clamped together, epoxied and 5mm epoxy clamped, and 3 of these. Alright, so I'm going to talk through this motor mount thing here a little bit, where I've got, these were pre-glued together, and these 2 were pre-glued together, and I contact cemented both sides, and I zip tied them through here. These are pre-cut flush here, and right now I just cut a piece off of one of these boards. It's a single board, and I put it in here as a spacer, but you can't put it up flush because you need room for that motor shaft. Little shaft in there, you can't be rubbing against either side or in up here, because the shaft of the motor is going to be in that gap, and then these little plates here, there's 2 plates that look like that, and 2 plates that look like this. I just put the tape on there so the level doesn't stick to it. And then I made it stand even to the wall, at least at this time, make it level. I have some, on this side plate here has some horns, and then on the front plate it has a hole. And you take canvas thread and you wrap it through there after you glue the plate on, and you make sure there's a, you know, there's a scap hooks back here, or nearly hooks, and see if I can get a picture of this. Yeah, so then I just wrapped it around front to hook around like this, and I bound the bottom and the top, and it's also epoxied on. Taking a little break from the head, and I'm taking a gonna start putting panels in here. My next panel, these little under strips that on the belly side I could use 3mm because I could use my hands on both sides to support it. But here, when I glue that down, my hand, I can't put it under there really to support it when I glue this down that well. I mean, I can probably lay that edge down and try, but I'm going to use 6mm as my under strip, so half of it's going to get glued under there. It's going to be about 1 1/4 inches. This is a little narrow, but about 1 1/4 inches wide. Half of it's going to get glued under, and the other half will stick out like this for the next sheet on top, the glue on top of. And that'll just be under here, under here, under here. Then this sheet, I'm going to have it extended out. Once those are on, and by the way, I took a knife and I beveled this so that when this will sit flush on this. It's on there. Make sure that you leave a little extra. And something else I did as well is I went to I've got a cut mat with a straight edge, and I recut both sides to make sure they're straight, because it's a real pain in the butt when they're all like woo all over the place. So I'm gonna, this short piece here, I'm gonna add a little piece of that under piece to here, to here, and to here, and I'm gonna add that little piece before I glue this down. So I'm gonna glue the whole width at once, just like I did this one. This one here, I glued it from there to this seam, which it seemed so well, it's nearly impossible to see. So that's how you want to do it, is do a really tight seam. And I did this all in one piece, even though it was seamed. So I seamed it ahead of time before I glued it down. And take some forethought, but it's possible. Alright, okay, so now I got this second piece on here and trimmed off the edges. And the blue tapes there just for me, something to have something to focus on. So this other piece, I've just cut it at a diagonal on one side. That diagonal happens to match, so I match it up halfway through that, and I've got plenty of room over here to cover my wing tip over here, and then so I cut this straight, cut that straight, cut that straight, and this here I'm going to work into a radius. On the corner of the refrigerator or corner on this here, I'm going to work this so it's pre-radiused before I come over here and glue it down. And that's what I mean by pre-radiused before I glue it down. It's just sitting there, but it's already. I worked on the corner of the refrigerator and the corner of that, and I kind of broke down the underside, the underside fibers, and now I'm just going to mark the area, and I'll glue it in. So before I glue it in, I'm going to put my under strips, so it's halfway, put my strips halfway under that, so I have something to glue to when I glue that down. Alright, just showing you it's on his back right now, and the reason why is I've cut this leading edge here. We're just attaching the top to the bottom, and over here, as you can see, I've cut it to where if I hold it up, okay, it's just perfect. I've trimmed that just right, where it's going to work out. But then what I'm doing is I'm just using a little bit at a time, and I'm putting some super glue and taping it up. And fold over the corners so you can get it off easily. I'll do that. So nonetheless, so fold over the corner of the tape like I did right here, so you can get it off easily, and you go zip, 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 like that, and you pull that down. But first you trimmed it to where it's gonna match up perfectly when it does glue. Alright. I put a little triangle in here after I put the under pieces. Now right here, the blanks there, I'm trying to fill this. It's 4¼ inches over from the center line. Taped it into position, but then I'm also, if you look, well, if you get just right, you can see the piece under it, that there's a shadow to where, so what I did is I marked on that edge and this edge, and I'm gonna fudge it over just a little bit just to make sure. So, and here I'm wrapped over, so I'm sticking off long, and I'll probably go just a little bit more, but nonetheless, what I'm trying to do is get this angle cut. So now I'm gonna trim this, and then I'll work it to make it pre-radiused. All right, I trimmed and taped and glued this edge up. Now I just trimmed, I applied that piece on the back of the shoulder, and then I trimmed real carefully with the knife like this, and then be real careful, don't cut too much. Better cut too little and too much, and then just kind of shave it off. And then you glue it up with some super glue, foam super glue, and just tape it up until it matches up just perfectly. And so now it's starting to look like this. That's the tape side I just showed you. And here's the, get up here as close as I can, get that focused in. So I get that looking as nice as I can on that leading edge. I put a little triangle piece back in here so I can still see my servos and access them if I need to. You know, and if I need to, I'll pop this loose and put on new pieces if I have to. But that's, and these have little clips on there nonetheless. So my servos are already installed, everything's already installed. I'm just going to do my heel covers. I'm going to do my heel covers before. The first time I did my heel covers, do about halfway up, and I thought that might be creating a little bit of drag, even though it might be more proper. I'm trying to do a higher speed version, so I'm going to go from about here. I'm actually going to go to the top of the heel for a full sheath, kind of like these toes, and I'm going to see if that gets me more speed out of the plane. All right. So after these leading edges are all buttoned up, all looking nice. Now right here, this spar piece that's coming across, the top of this piece is square that way, which is the wrong angle. So I'm shaving off the top of it so that when I lay this piece on here, I'll have some contact surface here. So I'm just going to kind of shave off this leading edge. I can't do it when I'm running the camera. But you can see what I'm saying is when that piece lays on here, I want some surface area here to glue to. Alright, doing the wingsuit here, we have the front end all wrapped up and looking pretty. Try to get my focus right. Now this, and it looks like super nice. So that's the, should give a little more vertical surface out of it. So that's the plan. And just to show you to get that, I have a custom calf section. But first, before I put that calf section in there, you can see under there that little, there's a little triangle that goes from heel to up to here. Whenever you do one side, do the other side identical for the distance in. My distance in is to the center of that, about 5 1/4 inches. 5 3/8, somewhere in there. Okay, and I went a little bit past this. I'm hanging out a 1/2 inch here because I want to make sure these wrap around, and I beveled this ahead of time I beveled this, whatever was left of the heel here, I beveled it down so this will lay in flat. And then I'll trim it down flat too. And I put a mark, see from the seam line in, I measured the distance here that was on that one. Right there, that distance. And I put a little mark here for the same distance for about where the glue line goes. So that, because I want this one looking like that one. I don't want. Alright, got the two calf pieces done. Really like the way they look. That is going to look so fast and streamlined.